The team and I are in Idaho's famed Panhandle. After receiving reports from our scouting team of researchers, we held 4 separate night investigations where we ran into some bad weather, but we gathered some information at our prospective locations.
Oh yeah. You're talking about, I don't know, I'm tempted.
Why don't you white light it?
What's that?
White light it. I'm gonna stay on it. You white light it.
I'm actually thinking about it.
You gonna go? All right, I can follow you with this.
Vast forests and shadowed rivers hide secrets that most fear to imagine. But what happens when those secrets step into the light? Tonight, we uncover 6 unforgettable Bigfoot encounters, a journey through eyewitness accounts, eerie footprints, and mysterious figures that will make you question every rustle, every shadow, and every night alone in the wild. On Animal Planet, meet Matt Moneymaker and the BFRO team, veteran investigators tracking credible Bigfoot reports across North America. This time, their search brings them to Idaho's Panhandle, where multiple eyewitnesses report unusual activity. After nights of harsh weather and difficult investigations, the team reaches a sighting site on the Nez Perce Reservation, ready to uncover whether these encounters are coincidence or evidence something still moves in these forests.
The team and I are in Idaho's famed Panhandle. After receiving reports from our scouting team of researchers, we held 4 separate night investigations where we ran into some bad weather, but we gathered some information at our prospective locations. Now, Rob and I are at the Nez Perce Reservation investigating an eyewitness Bigfoot site.
Witness Dan Steve was certain it was not a man. Upright and watching at first, it suddenly crouched and began hurling objects, reacting to something unseen. Every movement was deliberate, calculated. After a pause, it repeated the action, tossing debris through the darkness again. For Dan, the moment crossed the line from unexplained to deeply unsettling. What kind of intelligence was standing just beyond view?
I know it wasn't no man.
Well, what was it doing? Was it walking along or just standing?
It was just standing there.
Okay.
And pretty soon, I just see him go down, go like that, just throw stuff in the air. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? It move a little bit, start again, throw stuff up in the air.
The figure gathered branches, stones, and forest litter, tossing them as if driving something unseen away. Every motion was controlled, purposeful, not chaotic. What erased any doubt for Dan was its sheer size, muscles surging beneath the skin, far beyond human proportion. Confusion gave way to certainty. This was no human. It was something far more formidable.
But they'll go after small rodents like that on the ground. What part of it or parts of it made you sure that it wasn't a person standing up there?
Well, to me, every time it moved, the muscles that would pop out. You know, you see bodybuilders, but you don't see muscles that big.
Huey Scott, a security director, rarely dealt with the unexplained. One night, something moved along the hillside above the property. Investigating, he found a single impression sunk deep in the wet ground, preserved as if the earth itself had captured it. Its size was alarming. Too large, too heavy for any human. Photographs were taken, but unease lingered. Whatever left that mark was powerful and recent.
So how did you get involved in this?
I'm actually a director of security here, and when I arrived at work, I had heard from another employee that there was a sighting on the hill. I started my investigation up there, and we then located one particular print that was left in a mud in the heel, and you could actually see it really nice.
Ah, and that's the photo that you took?
That's the photo we took.
So you're talking about a real big something or other up there.
Cases with multiple witnesses carry weight. Patterns emerge, details align, reactions match, and the encounter's truth becomes harder to dismiss. The focus shifts from credibility to identifying what was actually seen. Here, the descriptions point in one direction, something far beyond a misidentified animal or human. The MAT remains cautious. Every detail must be compared, because if the patterns hold, The answer could be as extraordinary as it is unsettling.
I really like checking out sightings where there's more than one witness. When I can question each of them, I can tell very quickly whether or not that incident happened, and I can focus on what it was they saw, not whether they saw it. It seems that it could only be a Bigfoot, but I want to see that comparison.
Dan describes the figure standing near the ridge's crest, far larger than any human. Even at a distance, it towered over reference points. Through binoculars, the shadow revealed height, bulk, and shape. Something far bigger, far more imposing than anything ordinary. After reviewing the details, the conclusion is clear. Its height alone exceeds human limits, and the history of similar reports narrows the explanation. Eliminating every ordinary possibility, the sighting points to one unsettling answer. This was not a man, but something long whispered about in these forests, a Sasquatch.
I think it's definitely a Sasquatch sighting.
Whatever it was, like I said, it's way too tall to be a human, and there's been other sightings around here, so just by process of elimination, I think you guys saw a Sasquatch.
But as the ridge falls silent and the shadows stretch across the trees, one question remains. If this was truly a Sasquatch, how many more are moving unseen through these forests, watching from just beyond our sight? Meet the team behind Small Town Monsters. Investigators who venture where history and the unknown collide. On this night, they head into the shadows along the Little Tennessee River. Joined by Jesse, Joe, and Jeff Carpenter, they prepare for a nighttime operation near the abandoned remains of Needmore, a town long erased from maps, but not from memory. As darkness falls and the river flows quietly beside them, the team begins their investigation in a place shaped by isolation, forgotten roads, and a past that refuses to stay buried.
It's getting dark out. Right now, I am waiting to get picked up by Jesse and Joe of Hellbent Holler. And Jesse, Joe, and myself, along with Jeff Carpenter and Heather and Courtney, are going down to the Little Tennessee River and doing a night ops on the banks of the river. We're going to try to sort of walk along the road where Needmore used to be, but I'm excited because this will be my first time being down there at nighttime.
Years ago, this quiet bend of the Little Tennessee River became the center of a chilling report, one that still haunts the area. A witness described a massive figure emerging from the water, hauling itself up the riverbank and disappearing across the road near the abandoned town. It was a brief encounter, but it transformed this forgotten place into something far more unsettling. Tonight, that story guides every move. Under the cover of darkness, the team combs the river's edge, pressing into a night where visibility is low and every sound carries. Jeff positions investigators on both sides of the river, separated by moving water and deep shadows. If the plan works, they cover more ground. But as night tightens its grip, the greater question looms. Are they searching? Or is something else already watching from the tree line?
This is the same place where there was a sighting a number of years ago of Bigfoot actually crossing the Little Tennessee and going up the bank and across the road, directly across the river from where Needmore used to be. So that's our plan for the night. We're going to go scout around, probably do a night hike. Jeff wanted to sort of put teams on both sides of the river, so hopefully we can pull that off. But that's...
The focus shifts to the Little Tennessee River near the abandoned site of Needmore, an area tied to multiple unsettling reports. Witnesses have seen figures moving along the riverbanks, while earlier investigations captured a compelling encounter near a remote utility site. Another sighting from the roadway reinforced the sense that this place is far from quiet. One local hunter added to the mystery. While working a nearby field, his dogs suddenly panicked and bolted toward the truck, even the most experienced visibly shaken. In an area marked by repeated encounters, that kind of fear suggests something powerful still lurks in the shadows along the river.
That was a really good sighting. And then, of course, Josh, like I said, had a sighting from the road kind of thing. And then had some other people. One of them was a cooner, and then one his name mentioned. He had that big field, it's got the equipment in it.
Mm-hmm.
near the end of that, there's a trail, and his dogs had run in there. He was still in the field. One was an older dog, real experienced dog. The other was a younger dog. And he just heard this crazy commotion. Just the dogs were going crazy. And they went ball hooting, is the term I use, back towards the truck and hid underneath the truck. Both dogs, even the experienced dog.
Even seasoned investigators struggle to explain these accounts. What's clear? Unusual activity along the river isn't a one-time occurrence. Beyond sightings, quieter, deliberate incidents have been reported deeper in the area. Entire bushels of apples vanished, not scattered or dragged, but removed with intent. Small details perhaps, but in a region already marked by unexplained encounters, each subtle sign adds to the sense that something unseen is moving through the forest, leaving more questions than answers.
I don't know what they say about that.
Yeah.
But that's what happened. So there've been a few things on the river for sure. And then there's random reports, from different areas, particularly back in here. Somebody had some apples get stolen, bushels of apples, not just drug off, but carried off kind of thing. I think that might be
Right.
A dark mass shifts in the distance, just enough to spark concern. The dense undergrowth hides its shape, leaving no clear outline. It's far enough away to blur the details, yet close enough to demand attention. The team hesitates. Turning on a light could reveal the truth, or make the situation far more unpredictable. One investigator keeps it in sight, while another moves to cut through the shadows, knowing that the moment the light comes on, whatever is watching may decide to act.
Does it look big enough to be a bear?
Can't tell. It's obscured by the brush so much.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about, I don't know, I'm tempted.
Why don't you white light it?
What's that?
White light it. I'm gonna stay on it. You white light it.
I'm actually thinking about it.
You gonna go? All right. I can follow you with this.
The moment passes in uneasy silence before doubt sets in. Someone senses a sound drifting in from the darkness, something low and distant, barely carried on the night air. Others pause, listening, unsure whether it was imagined or real. Whatever it was, the sound is faint and far away, yet unmistakably out of place. It does not announce itself or repeat, but its quiet presence lingers, leaving the group alert and questioning whether the night has just begun to respond.
Did you hear something?
I thought I heard a howl from that direction.
That's what I thought, yeah. Something is kind of faint. Low.
It was very faint.
Yeah.
It was a distant.
I heard something for sure, but it was distant.
It was pretty far.
Or really quiet.
As the night deepens along the Little Tennessee River, who, or what, is truly moving through the darkness, and are the investigators the ones observing, or the ones being watched? On Travel Channel, the Ames team is preparing for another field investigation. This time, their journey takes them to Boone County, where they are set to meet their first eyewitness, Jody, a seasoned outdoorsman whose life revolves around the wilderness. Every chance he gets, Jody is out exploring the natural world, and his property is no exception. Over the years, it has seen its share of impressive wildlife, from thriving deer populations to the occasional elusive buck. The team steps into this rugged landscape, ready to uncover the stories that the forest holds and to see firsthand the experiences Jody has witnessed.
A man named Jody.
How we doing?
Jody's an extreme outdoorsman.
Nice to meet you, Jody. Nice to meet you, Buck.
Any opportunity he has to be in the outdoors, he's there.
Pretty good hunk of property you got here. I bet there's some pretty nice bucks out here, aren't there?
Quite a few nice deer taken off this piece of property over the years.
Jody recalled one of his most unusual encounters on his property. From his cabin, located about up the hill, he had been making his way to a favorite fishing spot when something in the woods caught his eye. At first, he thought it might be a bear, which was known to roam the area. As he carefully followed a path, a snapped branch suddenly alerted whatever was hiding nearby. In an instant, the figure rose onto its legs and bolted, revealing a presence far larger than anything Jody had expected, towering and powerful, leaving him both stunned and questioning what he had truly seen.
Jody, I heard you had a pretty interesting encounter out here.
I have a cabin that's about 250 yards up that way, and I was headed down to my fishing hole. I noticed something back over here in the woods, and I couldn't really tell exactly what it was, but there's black bears around here, so I'm assuming that it's a black bear. So I started walking right through this path right here, and I stepped on a branch, and whenever it snapped, whatever it was over there jumped up on its back legs and took off running. And that thing looked like it was 10 foot tall.
My God.
The team decided to approach cautiously. Jody asked Bill to move closer to a spot in the woods, trying to gauge exactly what they were dealing with. Their goal was clear: determine whether the figure was simply a black bear or something far more extraordinary. As Bill reached the marked location, they took a careful measurement near a massive tree. The result was staggering. Standing on its legs, the creature would have been nearly 10 feet tall, far beyond the size of any bear. A chill ran through the group as the possibility sank in. Could this truly be the elusive silver giant, a Bigfoot lurking in the shadows of Boone County?
Why don't you take Bill over there for me, please, and we'll stand back here and try to get an eyeball of about where it's at.
We need to find out if this is a black bear or the silver giant
This one right here.
or something else.
Tell me when. Right there, stop.
9'3". We went over to that big tree to get a measurement.
3-inch black bear? Nah.
Almost 10 foot tall when it stood up. I'm thinking this might be a big.
The team discovered an old trail stretching deep into the woods. Jody pointed it out, noting the path leading back into the shadows. Among the impressions in the soil, they spotted what appeared to be a bear track, large and unmistakable. The trail came across an enormous print complete with deep claw marks. While it resembled a bear, the sheer size and depth of the tracks left the team uneasy. Questions lingered in the cool forest air. Was this just a bear? Was it something far more dangerous? Tonight, they would return under cover of darkness, determined to uncover the truth that the daylight had only hinted at.
Right there, from there, clear back down there, bro. Yeah, that's definitely a bear track right there.
Jeff and Bill found a huge track down there that had claw marks in it. Now that does sound like.
As night falls over Boone County, the forest grows quiet. But the question remains, was it just a bear roaming the woods? Or is something far larger, far more mysterious, watching from the shadows? Will the Ames team finally uncover the truth? Or will the silver giant remain a legend hidden among the trees? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments section. The YouTube channel Salish Sasquatch is known for investigating mysterious sightings and unexplained activity in the Pacific Northwest. In this episode, Sarah Brown, a longtime local with first-hand experience of Capitol Forest's strange occurrences, takes viewers to Porter Creek, just a few miles from the famous 911 dispatcher sighting. On a quiet evening, she introduces the area as familiar, yet full of hidden history, perfectly suited for an investigation, unaware of just how strange and unsettling the night would become.
We're at Porter Creek right now in Capitol Forest. As the crow flies, we're only a few miles away from the 911 dispatcher sighting, which can be found online. The reason that we wanted to highlight this sighting is because it's in very close proximity to our home.
The road stretched quietly through the woods, and for a moment, everything seemed ordinary. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw it. A dark shape, massive and motionless, just off the pavement. The seconds slowed unnaturally as she tried to process what she was seeing, each heartbeat echoing like a drum. She couldn't explain it, yet instinct screamed that this was no ordinary shadow. 3 seconds later, it was gone, leaving behind only the lingering chill of something that had existed just beyond the edge of perception, and a question that would not leave her mind. What had she really seen?
In November of 2020, the 911 dispatcher was driving home around 3:30 p.m. She was between the towns of Malone and Porter, Washington. Off to her left, about 15 feet up, she noticed a dark creature. Though she was going about 55 miles an hour and she says the encounter only lasted about 3 seconds, she felt like it was in slow motion.
She described it as thin, almost unnaturally lean, with pale skin marked by bald spots. Every movement felt deliberate, too precise, too aware. But it was the face that stopped her. A face so eerily, yet wrong in ways she couldn't put into words, as if she was staring at something that didn't belong in this world.
She details the creature as about 6 feet tall, not very broad, but thin and very lean. It had patchy bald spots on its body, lighter skin, and she reported the face to look very, very human.
Viewers are taken to the very spot where the encounter occurred. On a narrow ledge, the creature had stood, almost as if it had been waiting. When she looked directly at it, a chilling awareness washed over her. It felt as though it had noticed her. Slowly, it turned and melted into the shadows of the surrounding forest. Whatever it was, didn't belong. Frozen for a moment, she felt the weight of being watched, completely exposed in the quiet wilderness. The figure didn't approach, yet its presence lingered, keeping her on edge, a silent reminder that she was not alone. Just across the road, the Chehalis River flows, alive with coho salmon this time of year. A peaceful scene that only makes the memory of the encounter feel all the more unsettling.
So up on this ledge right here is where the creature was standing. When she looked at the creature, she felt like it noticed her, and she saw it make a 180-degree turn and walk into the woods. It's important to note that right across the street is the Chehalis River, which is full of coho salmon that time of year.
She moved through an area heavy with history, where the forest seemed to hold its breath. Rumors of a legendary print from decades past lingered here, unseen but ever present in the shadows. What made this place even more unnerving was its connection to a recent encounter reported by a local dispatcher, both tied to the vast, untamed stretches of Capitol Forest, a wilderness that feels alive, watching, and full of secrets no one has yet unraveled.
Without knowing the specific location of the famous 1982 Grays Harbor print, we are in the approximate area, and what connects this location to the 911 dispatcher location is the Capitol Forest.
No one has been able to explain what she saw that evening. The spot where the creature vanished was empty, untouched, yet the memory lingered like a weight on the mind. Trails, footprints, and signs of the forest offered no answers, and the mystery of that encounter, what truly crossed her path, remains unresolved. On a flash of beauty, Bigfoot revealed veteran investigator. Diane Stocking knows patience is as important as belief. Years of fieldwork have uncovered countless pieces of evidence, most traced to hogs, deer, or horses. True anomalies are rare. But in 2001, in Florida's St. Johns River Management Area, Diane faced a case that could defy explanation. At a remote water reclamation facility where the evidence hinted something extraordinary might finally emerge.
Anybody that's been researching as long as I have, you collect evidence. I've received information from people for all kinds of different things. Most of the time, if I get hair, it is usually hog hair, horse hair, deer, something of that nature. I personally have never received actual hair that could possibly be Bigfoot. A lot of footprints, handprints. My favorite investigation was back in Florida back in 2001 at the reclamation plant, water reclamation plant in the St. Johns River Management Area.
Diane was called in after Thomas Steenberg contacted her for a witness, Debbie. The site was already strange. Sightings, eerie sounds, and mysteriously chickens. Most chilling, large prints on full-pane windows left by something peering inside at night. Diane arrived quickly, documenting the scene and stepping into one of the most compelling cases of her career.
Who had been contacted by Debbie, the witness, because I lived down there. He contacted me, and I went out there and investigations as far as sightings, vocalizations. Their chickens got that they had penned up for West Nile virus studies, and fingerprints, handprints. They had full glass pane windows on the reception area, and they had received, I had received rather a phone call from Debbie saying, hey, we've got these handprints on the window that happened when this thing was looking in the window one night. So I went out and there, collected the evidence.
The window marks spoke of a presence both deliberate and elusive. Partial impressions, fingers bent as if peering inside, hinted at motion, an arm shifting along the pane. Embedded hair and oily residue added to the mystery. Diane documented every detail, realizing she was witnessing some of the most tangible, unusual evidence of her career.
This is my favorite. This is obviously skin with hair impressions on it. The handprints and the imprints I received, a lot of oil in them when I looked at them. I did swab them for, you can see it in the pictures. It's the dew on the windows, but a lot of oil in both the handprints and in the impressions from when it leaned its arm against the window.
The experience lingered long after Diane left. Debbie pointed to the window where the strange impressions appeared, high enough to defy human reach. The faint traces of motion and embedded hair made the scene feel otherworldly, turning a routine investigation into a haunting moment that would stay with Diane forever. Diane relished the rare chance to uncover multiple footprints along a single trail. One set featured massive impressions, flanked by smaller, subtler prints. Using hydrocal for new casts, she preserved every ridge and detail. Each impression offered a tangible link to a mystery that had long evaded explanation.
It's great if we find many footprints in a trackway. This one here, 16 inches, we got that. This is from New York, upstate New York. Okay, and alongside that, we found these, a smaller one. So these were done with just plaster pairs, nothing special, because they were done a long time ago. Hydrocal is my favorite form of media because it sets up quicker and it doesn't generate as much heat.
The prints told a story that couldn't be ignored. Diane studied every ridge and swirl, evidence of something beyond human or known animal capabilities. Most investigations yield ordinary tracks, but these were different, weighted with presence that lingered long after she left. Even before experts like Dr. Meldrum and Cliff analyzed the casts, it was clear. This was more than a footprint. It was a whisper from a creature that had walked unseen for decades.
Bigfoot would be concerned to see if there was a difference between a Bigfoot's fingerprints, swirls, and whatever, versus a gorilla or a human. So, but yeah, they're my go-to guys for stuff like that. It's not common to find stuff out when you're investigating something. Like I said, most things you're going to get are footprints, and those you would send to usually Dr. Meldrum or Cliff Barrickman.
The research revealed a chilling consistency. From the southeast's dense forests to the remote northwest, the same patterns emerged. Night or day, sightings revealed a creature both elusive and consistent. It was as if the forests themselves were alive, leaving a thread of mystery stretching across the continent. Not every sighting yielded answers. Many were misidentifications, rocks, shadows, tricks of the light. Fearful witnesses snapped hurried photos and fled, leaving mysteries unresolved. When investigators returned, the creature remained unmoving, silently reminding them that the forest plays its own tricks, and that the line between legend and reality is far thinner than most realize.
Misidentifications. You got people out there that they'll see something, it's a Bigfoot. No, it was a rock. It was a tree. It was a this. It was a that. And a lot of people you get when they see something and they'll take a quick picture and then they'll leave because they're so scared. And I'm like, so did you go back there and is it still there? I'm too scared to go back. And you go back there and it's still there because it's a rock or a tree or something.
Even after documenting the site and collecting evidence, one question remains. Was it a trick of nature or something far more extraordinary watching from the shadows? Meet Angelo, the explorer behind the YouTube channel Exploring with Angelo. His videos open a window into the wilderness, capturing solo camping trips and deep forest adventures. Tonight, he ventures deeper than ever into a forest he knows, but something feels different. Weeks ago, on his first night here, he glimpsed something unexplained. Now, fatigue and a lingering sickness weigh on him, every step heavier than the last. Alone in the growing shadows, Angelo senses the forest watching. What waits just beyond the trees?
We're going to be going into an area we have been before. We're going to try and go pretty far in. I came in with some daylight, so we should be able to kind of figure out our way through on that path. And yeah, if you guys don't remember, a while ago, which is the reason why I want to go in that direction, a while ago, I think it was like the first night when I came here last month, I saw something. I will describe it later for those of you who haven't seen what I'm talking about, but yeah, the other thing is I'm also feeling kind of sick, a little bit under the weather. I don't know if it was from this place or maybe I caught a cold on the subway or something, but I feel so fatigued and tired, and it just got significantly worse as I got in here.
Angelo felt a weight of weariness settle over him, a low thrum of fatigue he couldn't shake. For a moment, a distant sound caught his attention, faint, melodic, almost like someone singing, drifting from somewhere off the path. He paused, half expecting someone to appear, but the forest remained empty, silent except for the whisper of the wind through the trees. Ahead, the trail split in two, a fork marked by a weathered sign barely visible in the dim light. Angelo approached cautiously, every sense alert, aware that the woods seemed to hold their breath, waiting.
For a sec, I heard somebody down off in this direction. Sounds almost like they were singing. So I was like half expecting maybe a hiker to come through, but I don't see anybody. This should be where the road splits off in two different directions as well. Yeah, there it is. There's the sign.
Speculation ran wild over what Angelo had captured. Some thought it a cryptid, others suggested a rare animal, but none of it felt right. On the footage, one thing stood out: the eyes. Large, glaring, and impossibly watchful. The figure loomed high, its form dark, massive, almost impossible to define, like a shadow that shouldn't exist. Even reviewing the frames again offered no answers. Whatever it was, it left a sense of unease that Angelo couldn't shake.
Some of you guys said it was a shapeshifter. Someone else mentioned it was an Inari fox. I still don't know. When I looked back on the footage, all I know is I saw glaring eyes, and it looked really big. That was the thing that spooked me. It looked like it was standing almost 10 feet up, with these big glaring eyes and like a big black ball. Like I almost couldn't even make out what the actual body of this creature looked like. And then we go back to the footage and check, and I don't know, it kind of looks like some weird translucent kind of creature. I have no idea. It could have just been, like I said, a deer, fox.
As Angelo moved through the underbrush, something caught his eye. Tucked against a tree was a shape. Strange, unsettling, almost bound in place. He grabbed a stick to push aside the thick webs clinging to every branch, the forest growing unnervingly quiet with each step. Then it hit him. This wasn't debris or a trick of the light. It looked like a crude hideout, deliberately constructed, hidden in the shadows. A chill ran down his spine.
Yeah, it looks like there's something kind of tied or strapped to that tree over there. It looks like that. I'm grabbing a stick just so I can move the dang spiderwebs because they're literally everywhere. Yeah, wait, what the heck? That's like a shelter.
Peering into the darkness below, every sound seemed amplified. Something moved in the shadows, approaching cautiously. The space stretched deeper than expected, and a small fire had clearly burned here recently. Among scattered debris, an object glinted, strange and unidentifiable. Abandoned gear, or a warning that someone or something was still here.
But I heard something. Alright, let's try and get in here. Oh, shit. Oh, it goes pretty deep. Oh, they had a fire going in here. This is weird. There's like a metal thing down here. really want to know what the that is. Like, it's not huge, but... Ugh.
Once again, a voice carried through the trees. What made it unsettling was not just its presence, but how familiar it sounded, eerily close to his own. The forest seemed to mimic him, reflecting something back that shouldn't have been there. Was this place reacting to his presence? Each moment suggested a growing resistance, as though something unseen objected to him being there at all. Alone in the darkness, the feeling intensified. Whatever inhabited this place did not welcome visitors, and it was becoming harder to ignore the sense that he was being tested.
Okay, I swear I just heard that voice again. It's very weird because it almost sounds like me. Okay, what's doing that? Should I be concerned?
The exhaustion hit all at once, draining every drop of strength. Then, movement. Something charged through the darkness without warning, fast and deliberate. Instinct took over as he spun, expecting to see something break through the trees. But there was nothing. No shape, no sound. Only empty ground where something should have been.
What was that? Holy Whoa. What the was that? Something literally just freaking ran towards me. What There's literally nothing here.
The journey would continue into another dense, shadowed forest, a place steeped in whispers and haunted stories. Today has been equal parts thrilling and terrifying, a reminder that the wilderness always hides its secrets. And tomorrow, there will be more waiting in the darkness. After a day of strange sounds, unexplainable sightings, and eerie shadows that seemed almost alive, the forest had shown its secrets, yet left far more unanswered. As night closes in and the trees grow silent but watchful, what truly hides in the depths of this wilderness, and will Angelo uncover it before it finds him? Animal Planet follows the team back into coastal Georgia, where reports of unexplained sightings surround the restricted lands of Fort Stewart Army Base. As the investigation begins, the calm is suddenly broken. A large disturbance moves through the nearby water, slow, powerful, and impossible to ignore. The team freezes, listening as something unseen shifts just beyond the shoreline. Whatever made that sound is close, and its presence suggests they are no longer alone.
Whoa, what was that? Did you hear that? I heard something moving over there, yeah. What the heck is that?
The team prepares to initiate a series of calls, carefully positioning themselves along the edge of the marsh. Moments earlier, Matt and his partner detected something large moving through the reeds. Heavy, deliberate, and unseen. Visibility is limited, forcing them to rely entirely on sound. As the calls echo across the wetlands, the group falls silent, listening closely for any response. Whatever stirred the marsh may still be nearby, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself.
We're looking over the river now. It's really wide. It's kind of an estuary here, and there's some islands in front of us, so we're gonna do a few calls.
Perfect, you guys are in a great spot. Matt and I just heard something big moving through the marsh. We've got ourselves out here. Matt can't see anything. So we're gonna listen to your calls, see if anything else happens.
The team pressed onward, venturing toward new ground. The property had seemed promising, bordering Fort Stewart, an area steeped in reports of strange sightings. Thick woods, hidden marshes, and shadowed estuaries offered perfect cover for something large, something unseen. The crew turned toward town, hoping that local witnesses might finally lead them to the secrets the forest refused to reveal. The hunt was far from over.
We took a guess with this property. It was a good guess, though, because the property is adjacent to Fort Stewart, which does have a lot of sightings. And out here, there is a lot of marshes and estuaries and thick woods where a Sasquatch could hide. But despite good Sasquatch territory, this location just didn't pan out tonight. So now we're headed into Town Hall, and hopefully there we'll get some good witnesses who will bring us to some better spots.
The BFRO team welcomed the crowd in Georgia, expressing their gratitude for everyone who came out. They paid special tribute to those currently serving in the armed forces, as well as veterans who had served in the past. For the few who had encountered the legendary Bigfoot, the team offered a salute, acknowledging their bravery and the extraordinary experiences they had witnessed.
Hello, Georgia. And thank you very much for coming out. We'd like to extend a special welcome to those people who are either currently serving in the armed forces or have done so in the past. For those about to squatch, we salute you.
Who saw one? Who saw Bigfoot?
Brian recalled an experience from 2007, one that still sent chills down his spine. He and his wife had decided to ride their four-wheelers through the night, stopping in a remote clearing for a few minutes of rest. Almost immediately, strange sounds began to surround them. Heavy thuds, like massive rocks or fallen timber, echoed through the darkness. Something moved through the nearby water, deliberate and powerful, yet there were no houses, no people, nothing for miles around. The isolation made the presence all the more terrifying.
My name is Brian. I had an experience in 2007. Me and my wife decided we was going to ride four-wheelers throughout the night. So we pulled off, sat there about 5 minutes, stuff started coming down around us. Sounded like big rocks, big pieces of wood. You could hear something walking through the water. And there's no houses anywhere around her.
Another terrifying story comes from a girl who thought she was just taking a walk through the woods, never imagining a simple walk through the woods could turn into a nightmare. The night was quiet, too quiet, until a heavy, dragging sound came from her right, just 10 feet away. Her heart pounded as she clutched the cross around her neck and dared a glance back. And there it was, its head eerily following her, moving with a cold, relentless stare. Fear rooted her to the spot, every instinct screaming to run.
I was walking along just fine. To my right, I heard something. It sounded very heavy, and I was maybe 10 feet from it. I had a cross around my neck. I grabbed it. I looked back one time, and when I looked back, its head was just following me.
This incident happened in the spring of 2006. She spotted a figure on the right side of the road, dark brown, shaggy, moving with an eerie, unnatural gait as it began to cross in front of her. Despite holding 2 degrees in biology and years of field research, she had never seen anything like it. Panic surged through her, heart pounding, desperate to get past it. Fear gripped her like a vice, every second stretching into eternity.
2006. I saw a figure on the right-hand side of the road. It was very dark brown, very shaggy. It started to cross the road. I actually have 2 degrees in biology, and I've done a lot of field research, and I've never seen anything like this before. I thought, just drive. I just wanted to get past it. I was so scared.
Heavy footsteps echoed behind him, followed by a guttural roar that froze him in place.
All of a sudden, I heard this just roar.
A piercing whoop rang out moments later, cutting through the darkness.
About a few minutes later, I heard a whoop.
He turned toward the property inland. Dense forests, swamps, and a winding river stretching for miles. Every shadow seemed alive, every sound a warning. The night had only just begun. The darkness pressed in from all sides, and then it came, a sound unlike anything they had ever heard. It was sharp, sudden, almost intelligent, slicing through the silence of the night. "Something's out there," someone whispered, hearts racing.
Did you hear that? Yeah, I think so. That sounds like Knox.
Every instinct screamed to run, but the forest seemed to hold them in place, daring them to uncover its secret. What lurked in the shadows, shifting just beyond their vision? And in these haunted Georgia woods, will anyone ever uncover the dark, hidden secrets that seem to watch, waiting from the edges of the trees? Story 4. Meet Doug Morrison on Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed, a lifelong Bigfoot enthusiast from Reedsport, Oregon, whose fascination with the legend began when he was a kid. Inspired by the famous Patterson-Gimlin film and his first Bigfoot book, Doug grew up believing the truth might be hiding deep in the forests. Years later, while hunting alone in the wilderness, that belief was put to the test when slow, heavy footsteps followed him along the tree line, moving when he moved, stopping when he stopped. At the time, Doug didn't think much of it.
I'm Doug Morrison. I live in Reedsport, Oregon. I've been into Bigfoot since I was a young kid. I saw the Patterson-Gimlin film when I was 7. I read my first book on Bigfoot when I was 7, and I've been into the Bigfoot TV shows and read books about it and stuff like that ever since I was a kid. I have had sounds when I was out hunting of something like in the tree lines that sounded like it was walking alongside of you, and if you stop, it would stop, but I'd never acquainted it to being a Bigfoot.
The night was unnaturally still, each rustle of leaves or snapping twig amplified in the darkness. Doug and his wife lay in the open field beneath a bright moon, their small cocker spaniel suddenly stiffening, growling, and staring toward the tree line along the Satsa River. He swept his flashlight across the woods. Nothing moved, yet the dog's agitation grew, and the calm no longer felt safe. Whatever was out there, it was watching, and it didn't want to be seen.
So while we were laying in the field looking at the stars, we had a small dog with us. He was a little cocker spaniel, and he started growling and showing his teeth, and his hackles went up, and he was pointing towards the Sayusla River in the woods there. And I had a flashlight with me, and I'd shine the flashlight around and did not see anything. There were no animals or anything that we could see. And he was getting a little more agitated, and it made my wife feel kind of creepy, so she asked if we could go back.
Doug and his wife returned to camp, and she decided to head to bed, slipping into the tent for the night. He stayed behind, settling by the campfire with a beer, enjoying the quiet while his back faced the Satsa River. Then came a sudden loud splash from the water behind him. At first, he thought it might have been a fish, or some animal leaping into the river. Grabbing his flashlight, he shined it across the surface, scanning for movement. Ripples danced on the water, but nothing else appeared. Still, something about the sound lingered in the air, echoing through the dark, and the river felt far less calm than before.
She decided to go to bed, and so she went into the tent and went to bed, and I sat out at the campfire to have a beer and just kind of kick back by the campfire. And while I was at the camp, sitting there, I had my back to the river. There was a large splash that happened in the river right behind it, where I was sitting, and I thought maybe an animal had jumped into the water, or maybe a fish jumped or something. So I went to take a look and see what it was, shine my light on the water, and I could see the ripples on the water, but I didn't see anything else out of the ordinary. So I felt it must have been a fish or something, so I went and sat back down, and about 3 to 5 minutes later, it did it again.
A loud splash erupted from the river behind Doug, followed by the sharp clink of rocks underwater. At first, he thought it was just pranksters tossing stones. He called out, laughed, and hid in the bushes, waiting. For minutes passed. Nothing moved. No one laughed. Just the river, silent under the moon. Shaken, Doug finally returned to the tent. Sleep felt safer, but that splash stayed with him long after the night went dark.
And it was followed by the sound of rocks clinking together, like it was underwater, which led me to believe something threw a large rock. So I thought maybe some kids were messing with us, so I yelled out that it was very funny, you know, haha, you got me type of thing, and I hid in the bush that was right there to see if I could catch them doing it again. And I sat there for about 45 minutes and nothing else happened. At that point, I figured, you know what, it's getting late, time to go to bed. So I went and got in the tent and went to sleep.
As the last glow of light vanished from the tent, a terrifying sound shattered the night. Something right outside let out a scream that seemed to come from the very bones. It started deep and guttural, vibrating through the air like a warning, then surged into a piercing, high-pitched wail that echoed across the campsite. Every instinct screamed at Doug to move, yet he couldn't tear his eyes away. For a long, frozen moment, the forest itself seemed alive, watching, and whatever had made that sound wanted him to know it was there.
The tent, and just as that light went away from the tent, something right outside the tent screamed, and it was the most ungodly sound I've ever heard in my life. The scream started as a very low guttural sound that it reverberated inside your body. It made your insides shake. And it was a long moaning sound that went from a low pitch all the way to a very high screaming pitch and then lowered back down.
He stepped out into the quiet of the campsite, scanning for any sign of disturbance. In the soft sand, he spotted impressions. Not clear footprints, just shallow craters pressed into the earth. About 20 feet from the tent, a large branch caught his eye. Roughly 6 feet high and thick, it had been snapped at the base and twisted around itself, the sound of the break still echoing in his mind. Around the nearby trees, the underbrush had been flattened, smashed down by something impossible to identify. Whatever had passed through the campsite had left its mark, but Doug had no idea what it could have been.
And I went out and looked around the camp to see if anything had been disturbed, and you could see footprints in the sand, but it wasn't defined. It was just a crater in the sand. And what I did find was about 20 feet from the tent, a branch that was probably 2 inches in diameter. It was about 6 feet high, had been broken right at the base of the tree, and it had been twisted around 2 times. It made what they call a green stick break. And I looked around that area, and the salal that was around the trees had been smashed down, but by what, I couldn't tell you.
The question of what had passed through the area that night remains unanswered. Were the footprints and broken branches the work of an animal, or something far stranger that had been watching them? They may have returned to safety, but the memory of that scream, the splash in the river, and the shadows in the trees will linger long in their minds. D-Max UK takes us deep into the Canadian Rockies, a wilderness so vast even the wind seems to whisper secrets. The team traveled to the remote eastern slopes to examine chilling footage captured by Todd Standing. Short, blurry. Some say it shows Bigfoot. Others aren't convinced. Out here, every tree could hide a watcher. Every sound could be a warning. One question remains. What really lurks just beyond the camera's gaze?
I saw this particular video several years back. Todd says his video shows a Bigfoot, but the video is very short and you don't see much of the creature. Some Bigfoot researchers believe this is a hoax.
Todd Standing's name divides the Bigfoot community, but the footage alone doesn't tell the whole story. The site is remote, dangerous, a place where hidden threats lurk behind every tree. Todd guides the team to a nearby location, one that mirrors the original encounter. Every step feels heavier, every sound sharper. It's as if the forest itself is watching, and the shadows move on their own. The team scouted the area, convinced this could be a Bigfoot hotspot. They spotted 3 sentinels, watchers who monitor the main group and alert them to intruders. The plan: position themselves behind one and capture it on camera. But they didn't expect the group's protective instinct. And then, the camera caught it. Something massive, a large male creature, watching from the shadows.
My crew and I scouted out this area as a potential Bigfoot hotspot, I guess you call it. As most people know for Bigfoot, they're nocturnal. And we found 3 day watchers, as we call them, that watch over the main group. And so we know when they become alerted to your presence, they move back to the main group. And so what we were doing is we were trying to get as close as we could behind a day watcher. So when she would come back to the main group, she would have to come across this rock face, and that's when we were going to videotape her.
He stood briefly, letting the female day watcher pass. Then, he melted back into the shadows. Silently, he followed her toward the main group. Every movement deliberate, controlled. Fear surged through the team. He was enormous, a true beast of the wilderness. Around them, the forest seemed alive.
Something we didn't anticipate was when the whole group is alerted to your presence, they don't just ditch the day watchers, they come back and make sure they're safe. And I believe that was a large male in the video. And what he was most likely doing is standing up to let the day watcher, the female, come by, and then he got back down and he followed her back to the main group. I started to feel a lot of fear at that point because he was enormous. He was beastly huge. It made me scared. I was afraid. I was,
Every rustle, every shadow, unseen danger lurking everywhere. After hearing Todd's story, Cliff felt a chill down his spine. During the day when the Sasquatch rests, Todd realized something terrifying. He hadn't just disturbed them, he may have put the entire family on alert. Something massive, something intelligent. In this wilderness, every shadow could hide eyes. Every rustle could mean they're not alone.
Todd's story makes a lot of sense in that it supports a theory that Sasquatches are nocturnal. Todd suggests that during the day when the Sasquatches are sleeping, they set out sentinels or watchers to make sure that their family group is safe. Todd thinks on this day he disturbed not just the watcher but the entire family group. That could very well be possible.
Ranai replayed the scene again and again. Why did it squat, then vanish? Why didn't it approach? Had someone scared it off? Questions swirled heavier with each replay. One thought lingered. What really happened in those shadows?
It squats down and it's out of sight. Why don't you go up there? Why don't you throw a rock? Why don't you have the guy that's standing next to you, you stand there, have somebody climb up there, flush the animal out? I mean, what happened to it?
The team crouched beside Bobo, guiding him with care. Bobo mirrored Todd's movements from the original sighting, every motion precise. As they paused, Todd felt the forest holding its breath. Memories of that day crept back. It was as if the shadows themselves were watching. Bobo wanted to see how he measured up. The difference was staggering. He looked almost fragile. The Sasquatch was massive, thicker, broader. Its presence impossible to ignore. Every shadow, every movement. This wasn't just big. It was otherworldly.
All right, let's see how this compares. I want to see how I look compared to the actual Squatch. Okay, well, it's way wider than I am. I mean, look how narrow I am compared to it. That thing's huge. That thing is just way, way thicker and bulkier than I am, way wider. Not human. Watching the videos side by side, the subject in Todd's video looks a lot broader than I do. I think it's real.
Even before seeing Todd's footage, the BRO had collected countless sightings from this wilderness. Experiencing it firsthand, the area felt alive, dark, untamed, and uneasy. Perfect for their first night of shadows. Every movement, every sound. Something was watching, waiting. The terror comes from the unknown. Todd's encounter revealed something massive, unseen, impossible to explain. The quiet forest became a place of looming danger. Every shadow, every sound, a potential threat, a chilling reminder. No matter how prepared you are, something could always be watching from the darkness. On Small Town Monsters, we investigate a chilling roadside encounter that unfolded in the early hours of the morning. Just after midnight, witnesses Jonathan Cope and Kenny Cope were driving home from a racetrack in Andrews when something on a bridge ahead forced their attention. In the headlights, they saw a figure crouched low, clutching something, an image so unnatural it instantly set off alarm bells. What they witnessed next still defies explanation.
So we were coming from a racetrack over in Andrews, 12:30, 1 o'clock one morning, coming down the road here, and I was probably going over the speed limit, honestly, so couldn't get slowed down quick enough. But when we came across the bridge, I looked here and I seen something kind of hunkered down, kind of like this, but it was holding something, and it was pink. What it was holding was pink, and that's actually what made me notice it.
Kenny Cope witnessed the same thing. The conditions were rough, dark, with a light drizzle that blurred the edges of the road. As they crossed the bridge, the figure would have gone unnoticed, if not for one striking detail. Clutched in its hands was something vivid, almost fluorescent pink, bright and unnatural, impossible to ignore even in the dim light.
Same thing he did. We was coming through there, and it was dark, but kind of drizzly, not raining, just drizzling. And we come across the bridge, and I wouldn't have seen it if it hadn't been for that fluorescent. It was like fluorescent pink, kind of like that pink is on that ribbon right there.
From where they watched, it crouched unnaturally low, knees almost grazing the ground. In its hands was something strange. It pressed it tightly under its chin, head bowed, fingers gripping it as if trying to keep it hidden from the world. Every movement was deliberate, tense, and quietly menacing, leaving the witnesses frozen in a mix of fear and disbelief.
To me, it was more strapped lower down. Its knees were lower down the way I took it. And it was like a pink plastic tube. And it had it up and under its chin with its head down under it with its hands wrapped around it, like it was trying to hide.
At first, they thought they had seen just an ordinary figure, but the next day, seeing it again shattered that assumption. It towered over them in a way that felt impossible, its head and shoulders looming in the dim light. The sheer presence of it left them frozen, a chilling reminder that whatever they had encountered was far beyond anything they expected.
Well, like I was saying, I always thought this was maybe 4 or 5 foot high until we come out the next day.
Oh yeah.
And it's a lot taller than I thought it was.
Yeah.
And its head and shoulders was somewhere right around here. I mean, it was way up on it.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this was that tall.
What they saw matched an image one of them had found online, though its origin was uncertain, maybe something else entirely. The creature's fur was patchy, deep, hanging in uneven clumps. Sticks, leaves, and debris clung to it, as if it had emerged straight from the forest floor. And all of this unfolded in the dead of night, where darkness swallowed every detail and made the encounter even more chilling.
I don't know where that came from.
Okay.
It may be AI, I don't know, but I found it on the internet, and that's what it looked like.
Did it have the same kind of mangy?
Yes,
Really?
mangy, except it was a reddish brown, and the hair was like that, coming down over the mangy. It was, what I seen, it was sticks and leaves and stuff stuck to it.
Yeah, it's nighttime, right? Is it dark? How?
Yeah, it's dark. And I was seeing it off the headlight.
Catching this thing? Yeah, in the headlights, okay.
Right.
The real shock came the next morning. The imprints left behind in the ground were unlike anything they had expected, unnervingly precise. They had to position themselves just to fit their feet into the prints, a chilling reminder that whatever had passed through here was far from ordinary.
When I seen it, and what really shocked me is when we came out here the next morning was the imprints in the ground and how wide they were. Like, you know, I was having to stand like this to get in the feet prints.
And then where its knees, what I think was the knees, he stood here and had to be way over here to reach it.
Its fur hung in tangled, wavy clumps over its shoulders, rough and wild along its back, giving it a savage, untamed appearance. In the dim, shadowed forest, it seemed to blend with the darkness, every movement deliberate and unsettling, as if it was watching, waiting, and aware of every eye on it.
It was a dark reddish, brownish color.
Okay. What time of year is this again?
Relatively around this time.
Same time of year.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Its hair, where it come down over its shoulders, like in this picture,
Yeah.
its hair was wavy and a lighter color.
Okay.
A lighter color than the hair on its body.
Right.
And it was real mangy looking in the back. I mean, just about like that.
Yeah.
Even now, every time he passes through the area, he can't help but scan the shadows, hoping, yet wary, of seeing it again. The memory lingers, drawing him back, as if the forest itself is keeping secrets just out of reach. With other witnesses confirming similar encounters, the story takes on an eerie weight, a rare alignment that makes the unexplained feel almost undeniable, and leaves anyone listening questioning what might still be out there, watching from the dark. But the story doesn't end here. 6 encounters, 6 glimpses of something larger, something watching. The forests, rivers, and shadows still hold their secrets, unseen, unheard, and waiting. How many more are out there, just beyond sight? And will anyone ever truly know what moves in the darkness?